Anchorage, Alaska has a citywide violent crime rate 213% higher than the national average, which puts them in between places like Minneapolis and Nashville and Stockton, California. The city is broken down into 38 neighborhoods, of which a handful are legitimately good areas. But 55% of them have violent crime rates higher than 200%, and 16% of them have violent crime rates that are over 300% higher than the U.S. average. Those 6 neighborhoods are what we're going to look at today, along with the ones with the most murders in 2022. This is the Taku Campbell neighborhood. It has a violent crime rate 243% higher than the U.S. average. It held the scene of 4 of Anchorage's homicides in 2022, giving it a murder rate of 33. Now into Northeast Anchorage, which has a violent crime rate 285% higher than the national average, and which was also the site of 4 homicides in 2022, that neighborhood has a murder rate of 13. Now into downtown Anchorage, which has a violent crime rate 312% higher than the U.S. average. This area is more diverse than some of the other neighborhoods. 3 murders occurred here in 2022, giving it a murder rate of a whopping 242, which is extremely high. But the population within the downtown is very low. Your odds of being murdered in downtown Anchorage is 1 in 412. Yeah, maybe steer clear of that place at night. The Sand Lake neighborhood has a violent crime rate 211% higher than the national average, and also had 3 homicides in 2022. Its larger population makes its murder rate 14. Demographically, it's still fairly diverse, but predominantly white. The Midtown neighborhood has one of the highest violent crime rates in the city, at 370% higher than the national average. This area is extremely diverse. Its 2 homicides in 2022 give this neighborhood a murder rate of 40. Nowhere near as bad as downtown, but one of the worst murder rates in the city. The University neighborhood has a violent crime rate at 249% higher than the U.S. average. It's home to the University of Alaska campus as well as the Alaska Pacific University campus. It's not uncommon for areas around college campuses to have high crime. This area had 2 homicides in 2022, giving it a murder rate of 19. This area is also fairly diverse. The Scenic Foothills area has a violent crime rate of 234% higher than the national average, and also had 2 murders last year, giving it a murder rate of 21, which would make the top 5 in the city for highest murder rates by neighborhood. The Mountain View neighborhood has the highest violent crime rate in Anchorage, at 392% higher than the U.S. average. It had 2 homicides in 2022 and has a murder rate of 29. This neighborhood is another that is extremely diverse. Now for 3 neighborhoods with high violent crime rates. The Spenard neighborhood's violent crime rate is 300% higher than the national average. The Russian Jack Park neighborhood has a violent crime rate 325% higher. And the Government Hill area's violent crime rate is 351% higher than the national average, the city's 3rd worst violent crime numbers. The schools in Anchorage aren't nearly as bad as most major U.S. cities. None of the high schools rate below a 3 out of 10, which, as bad as that sounds, is actually pretty good, and might be the reason that their violent crime isn't quite as bad as a lot of U.S. cities. Anchorage has a population just below 300,000 and is maintaining that level. The city has an overall murder rate of 9.6 and does not see mass shootings like we get in the lower 48. Alaska is a beautiful state. I've been there many times. It's a state with a large amount of guns, but the violence in Anchorage would be considered at normal city levels for America. And there are only a handful of areas you'd want to avoid.